Greetings and salutations, I am Crom the Pale, and this is my Minecraft Absolute Beginner's Guide to playing PC Java Edition 1.14.3. All those numbers just tell you when the latest update was and that it's still in the process of being updated. So 1.14 is the most recent update, the Village and Pillage update, and 0.3 means there's been 3 additional updates to that. A 4th one is on its way. We might see more after that. They're usually bug fixes and minor tweaks to adjust things. It's not really that relevant, but the whole purpose of my making this video is that a lot of people are coming to Minecraft for the very first time, and a handful of people are returning to it who haven't played in years, and so you need a refresher. This is going to be a guide how to get from the very initial stages of the game to where I think everyone can start doing anything they want to without any outside interference. The first thing, of course, you're going to do is install the game. You have to choose, are you going to make a single player world or a multiplayer world? Multiplayer worlds simply mean that other people are going to join you if you so desire. If you have friends, and I highly recommend playing with friends, obviously multiplayer. If you wish to play alone, you can do a single player world. It is possible after you create your world that you can change it to a multiplayer world. Activate LAN, as it says in the information. Now, if you see here, I've got multiple worlds set up. The YouTube tutorial world is the world I'm going with. What you're obviously going to do is create world. Now, when you create a world, there are a handful of options to pick from. You're basically going to ignore all of them. The only option you may consider is the bonus chest option. I'm going to press escape. And in a single player world, when you press escape, it literally stops time. However, you can see in the background some of my world is still rendering. That's not considered progression time. That's simply the game building the world out. Now, at the pause screen, you can see that I can open to LAN. So I can change this from a single player world into a multiplayer world, report bugs, statistics, advancements, give feedback, and there are options. If I go to options, I can change the field of view. That's how wide of field of view I have. The difficulty's on normal. I can change my skin, video settings, language, resource packs, music and sound, controls. Controls is something I strongly suggest you take a look at, and that's just to familiarize yourself with what buttons do what. Again, if you played a lot of video games, you can probably skip this, you'll know it, or you'll figure it out all on your own. But it never hurts to take a quick glance at this to see if there's things you can do that you're unaware of. For example, pick block. If you've never played the game before, or if you haven't played in a very long time, you might not know what that means. Pick block means if I point my cursor, the on-screen crosshairs, at a block, and I have a similar type of block in my inventory, I can click the middle button on the mouse, which is usually clicking down on your scroll wheel, and that will automatically select that block into my inventory section where I can place it. I can demonstrate that if you'd like. Inventory selections, dropping an item, you're not going to use that too often, but there will be times when you will. I have changed it because the original drop select item was, I believe, Q, which concerns me that I might drop an important item because it's so close to W, which is, of course, the move forward button. Open and close inventory, swap items in hands. That's something that, again, if you've never played or if you haven't played in a very, very long time, might be new to you. You can carry items in your offhand or your left hand. You can't actually choose whether you want to be a right-handed or left-handed character, though I haven't done that. And, of course, there's multiplayer things. Advancements, highlight players, spectators, take screenshots. I take screenshots every once in a while. It's quite nice. I've never used the cinematic camera, full screen, and toggle perspective. I can show you toggle perspective real quick. So if I press F5, you get to see what my character looks like. This is me. Hello. Now, as you can see, there's a column of dirt behind me. So if I hit F5 again and turn around, I'm going to click my middle button, even though I've got my sword selected. Whoops, I don't have any dirt in my inventory. So never mind. Let me take a piece of dirt down. There. Let's try that again. There you go. It automatically swapped an item out. That's your pick block key. Now I go back to my inventory and I can put that back. Now you see the dirt column here. I made this when I first jumped onto this world. And I'm actually going to go back and talk about creating worlds for a second, because I think that's an extremely important thing in Minecraft. And a lot of people skip past it. They press the create world button, they jump in to start the world, and they just go from there. My opinion on this is that if you're going to spend a lot of time in this world, shouldn't you make certain it's going to be a world that is enjoyable for you to play it, that has certain things that increase that enjoyment? Now, never having played the game before, you might not know what they are, so I'm going to give you a rundown of what I think is important. Now, there are a million ways to play this game. There is no wrong way to play the game. These are strictly suggestions based on my personal experiences and what I found enjoyable and unenjoyable. So for example, I did not start with this particular world. When I was planning this video out, I created a world, jumped into it, and found myself on a mountain. And when I turned around and looked in all directions, all I saw were trees and more mountains. And I felt that that wasn't a good starting world for this particular video. It's not that I couldn't have made the video there or couldn't have done, what I wanted to do there, but it wouldn't have been as easy. It would have taken me longer, and there were other restrictions. For example, because I was on a mountain and because the forests surrounding me were all the same type of trees, I was in a singular large biome. That meant the types of resources I had to work with were limited. Similarly, I started another world and wound up in the middle of a large forest, a dark oak wood forest. Not a bad thing. Wood is a wonderful resource. You're going to use a ton of it in this game, so being in the middle of a forest is generally a good thing. However, as I went and explored, I discovered that I was surrounded by this forest on all four sides for quite some distance. That meant that if I made my base at spawn, that is the point where you initially start the game, I would have some difficulty locating that. I would also have to travel quite a long distance to find my way out of the woods, and when I did, I found myself next to mountains, which again, not a terrible thing. People love building on mountains, but in the initial steps of the game, when you're just starting out, that can be a severe detriment, in my opinion. So I ended that world, and I started this world. Now in this world, as you can see, I'm in a open area, a relatively benign clearing. You can also see behind me a large body of water. And if I head back to that water, you're going to notice that it is quite large. It's large enough that I can refer to it as an ocean. Ocean biomes in this game are extremely useful. They have lots of items. They have kelp and seaweed, coral, pickle apes. They also hold some very useful things such as sunken ships, sunken ruins, and ocean monuments, which are exceedingly fun to explore and work with. Now, as I ran around this area, I also discovered that just over here a little ways, there's a natural cave formation. And it's not just a cave, not simply a tunnel in the ground, but it's actually a pretty good opening that would be ideal for a starter base. I have a lot of light from here, so I can see there's nothing down there that's going to hurt me at this time. So if I did make a set of steps going down there, I could actually build something pretty safe. I could wall off the lava there. I could even keep that lava, because there are times in the game where you're going to want to make use of lava. So this is a pretty good starting area. So in my head, I have a mental checklist that I go through when I start a world to see if it's a keeper. So far, I hit the first check mark. This world's a keeper. But just because I found one check mark doesn't mean I'm going to stop looking to see if there's more. Now, as you can see over there, some more caves, possibly a ravine. And over there is some more water. You can see I've got trees, mountain over there. It's a pretty unique looking mountain. That means it's a good landmarks. So if I go out exploring, I can find my way back here fairly easy. I've got multiple types of trees, so I've got an oak tree there. I've got some birch trees over there, and my brain's drawing a blank. Spruce trees right there. Now, before I go out exploring, however, the first thing I do is I press F3. That brings up this menu. This menu is extremely important. A lot of people refer to this as the debug menu. It is basically the only way you can get 3 pieces of information from the game other than some very not so reliable sources. The first thing you're going to want to look at is your X, Y, Z coordinates. On the left-hand side of your screen, if you ignore that whole first quadrant or paragraph, you come to X, Z, or X, Y, Z, and then it says 23 decimal points slash 73, some zeros, slash 98, and some decimal points. That means my X coordinate is 23, my height is 73, that's your Y coordinate, and 98 is my Z coordinate. You can also look 2 lines below that, and you see it says I'm facing north towards negative Z. That means the farther north I go, the lower that 98 is going to get until it hits 0, and then it's going to start going negative. For some reason, south is positive, and I'll talk about this little fella in a moment. The third item that's extremely important that you're going to want is if you go down another line, you see client light and server light. What that means is, if you can see where I'm standing right now, it says sky 15 light from sky, 0 from block. That means during the day this gets 15 light from the sky, but at night when there's no sun it has 0 light. Now if I go over this way, you'll see I have a torch there, and as I start to approach the torch, that second number starts to go up, and it will get to a maximum of 15 directly on, or 14 I should say, directly on the block. Now any light level below, I believe 7 or below, can spawn a mob, a monster that you have to fight. So it's always a good idea to use this to determine how often you have to place torches to light up your world to be safe. Now, after I determine what direction I'm facing and I figure out exactly where I started, so I spawned not at 0, 0, 0, but at 0, 68, and 111. Okay, so if I want to find my way back here, I have to either look at these numbers or put up a pillar, a torch, whatever. Now, obviously, you don't start the game with torches. You don't start the game with anything in your inventory. You have no map, you have no food, no armor, no weapons. You start with nothing. So at that point, you're very vulnerable. You're susceptible to injuries. You're susceptible to starvation. And it's going to be hard or difficult for you to acquire items. That's kind of the point of a survival game. If you've ever played a survival game, you know what comes next. So my first thing is I want to find shelter, tools, weapons. However, prior to that, I still have to decide if this is the world I want to live on. So I do a quick exploration to the north, and I see all the woods up there, and I decide, okay, I like that. I like that there are plenty of variety of trees, even though there's only 3 out of the potential 6? I've got the 3 that I find are extremely useful, and I will give you a quick ranking of all the wood in a minute, but basically I see that I've got a lot of area to build with. I've got pumpkins over there. That's an instant check mark because pumpkins are a very useful item. I can then go and explore this way, and I did. I went all the way over to the east here, and what I discovered is that that ocean actually wraps all the way around. You can just, I don't think you can see it through here, but it is. It's just beyond there. And what I found over there was actually some ocean ruins, and I think I found a sunken ship as well. And I got some good items from that right off the bat. So this world had a lot of check marks, a lot of positive things that I felt would make it a great world to play on. Now, after deciding that, I still had to make a base and decide where I was going to live, but I wanted to take a look to the west because there's always a chance that there could be something even better really close. And as it turns out, I was right. There was something better. So I'm going to head on over to that something better. And I probably should run so I get there before the sun goes down. Ah, there it is. You can see this really tall tree there. That's something I planted to make it a little easier to find my way to my home. And that's something that, you can do easily enough. With spruce trees, when you plant a sapling, which you get by breaking leaves or allowing the leaves to disintegrate once you break or remove all of the trunk from the tree, you can plant these saplings singularly, or in the case of spruce, dark oak, and in jungle trees, you can plant them as a group. In other words, you can plant 4 of them and get a tall tree. And what I did is I built up some dirt first. So I made certain I had a really tall tree. And what you see here is a village. And village is exceedingly important for my particular method of playstyle. So I wanted to find one, and I did. When I initially found this village, it was completely infested with trees. There were trees everywhere. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to sleep for the night. And a benefit of finding a village is all these houses, pretty much all of them have beds in them. But here you can see I've already created my own starter house, and I've got some villages in it, but I'm going to sleep at night and have a sip of water. Now, if you look up here, you see a map. There's actually 2 maps there. Yes, villagers always want in on the action. Now, right here where my crosshairs is the initial spawn point. So we spawned on what would be this map's location. You can see there's the ocean. You can see what I mean by it wrapped all the way around here. So I've got a peninsula here, and I've got lots of ocean over there. So this is a very big ocean. And then I found the village right here. And after I found that village and started setting things up, as you can see, I created a map and I explored. But I'll get into that in a second. So once you find a village, what do? Okay, well, you suffer lag, apparently. My computer's not the best, so you're going to have to forgive minor things like that. But anyways, so back to here. So I came running up. There was all trees there. There was trees everywhere, but I found a village. So what I did is I immediately went in, found a bed, took it out. Or actually, I went to sleep, and then I took it out and I moved it. I then went around, and I decided, well, I had to clear out all the trees. So I cut down as many of the trees as I could. I made my first tools. And one of the beautiful things about finding these types of villages is that often inside these homes, you'll find workbenches. Now, this one didn't have one. I believe this one did, or was it that? I think it's that one. I'll check this one since I'm here. But a crafting table is what I'm looking for. Nope, this doesn't. You'll notice I've got these half slabs here, and that's what's keeping the villagers inside. And the reason why I want to keep them inside is to prevent them from being killed by roving mobs. Nope, I think I took out the crafting tables that were here. Now, the Wandering Trader is a very useful guy for acquiring blocks that are not easy to find. They are expensive at times, but, getting some glowstone right off the bat without having to go to the Nether, which is a very dangerous location, is a handy thing. Now, after I locked in a handful of villagers, I did a quick cleared all the trees. I did a run around to see how big the village was, how many structures there were, how many workstations there are. And these are villager workstations that allow villagers to reset their trades every day. After I did that, I made a whole bunch of fence posts, and I fenced in this village to the best of my ability. You can see all these torches. I wanted to light the city up, so I made torches, and I'll show you real quick how to do that. Again, this is the beginner's guide. If you've been playing for years, most of this you can ignore, but it is going to go over some important details, so I would ask you be patient. So the first thing I did, of course, is chop down trees, and I made a crafting table. Now, at a crafting table, you can make a huge number of items. but you have to know the recipe for them. If you don't know the recipe for them, you can click this little green book here, and it will actually show you what you can make with the items that are in your inventory. If you click this little green check mark and turn it to an X, it'll show you all of the recipes you've currently unlocked. Now, you unlock a recipe by picking up one or more of the crafting items necessary to make that. So in order to unlock the tripwire hook, I had to pick up some iron. Okay, it didn't unlock when I picked up the stick or the oak planks just because I had not acquired iron at that point. So it was a key item that was necessary for that. Now you can also unlock the recipe by picking up the item itself, and I happened to stumble across a tripwire hook, so I believe that's how I unlocked it. As you can see, there's lots and lots of different items here, and anytime you see them jump out like that, that means that's an item that I've unlocked and I haven't looked at previously. So in the crafting table, you can see I can make a furnace. This is the furnace, and I have charcoal, and there's some iron ingots. I got some experience with that. So what I did is I threw some wood blocks in here, wood planks in here, and wood blocks up here to produce charcoal. And I've got a little stockpile there. Now, once I had the charcoal, of course, you use sticks to craft torches, and so I created this. The second thing I did is I started to build this small farm here. Now, the water was already here, so what I did is I just put down some dirt, tilled it, and planted seeds in order to create this nice garden. And the reason I wanted this, and I consider it in the same level of importance as to why I found the village, is to trade with villagers. You can see that these guys, the farmers, I've traded with quite a lot. And this is a huge benefit. Getting the emeralds from villagers is the whole key to my initial starting gameplay. The reason is, once you get those emeralds, and once you unlock villager trades, you can get some very useful items. Now, I'm not particularly going for the golden carrots. What I am going for is to get your character to this stage. So I have my diamond armor, I've got diamond weapons, I've got diamond tools, and I've got some other weapons that I've come across along the way. So the way I got all the weapons and armor, I got all my armor from this guy. He starts off with just 2 trades, but as you unlock trades and raise his level up to master, he winds up producing some very nice diamond armor. It is expensive, but since you can get basically free emeralds just by giving, potatoes, carrots, and wheat to the farmers, it's not that hard to acquire. It is a little time consuming. And of course, this fellow in here, he provided me with an axe, a shovel, and a mining pick. And the mining picks are important for digging things. And he requires what's called a smithing table. And over here you can see this villager, my weaponsmith, he required the grindstone, which actually has very useful features. And of course, he provided me with another axe and a sword. Fire aspect, 1-end sweeping edge, which arguably people can say they like or dislike. The fact of the matter is, if I wish to, I can throw it in here and remove those enchantments, gain some experience, and then I can re-enchant it with whatever enchantments that I desire. Now, after I discovered the village, I cleared the trees, I locked up a few villagers, I decided I needed to breed some villagers. And I wasn't going to make anything too elaborate, so all I did was I created this box, I knocked a hole in the building here where I had a villager trapped, brought him in, I used a workstation, I believe, or a bed to bring in another villager, and then I created this, and this is a 1.5 space. So if I try to walk through it, I can't. But if I hold shift down to crouch, I can then easily pass through this space. So I can get in and out, but no other villagers can. However, when these two breed, when I feed them some food, the baby villager they produce, it can wander out. And because of the nature of the baby villagers, they wander out quite frequently. So there's only 2 villagers in there, but they have populated this entire village because before I had enough torches, before I had enough wood down, several nights came by and I ended up getting attacked by zombies. and they killed most of the villagers. So that's why I trapped villagers in houses whenever I could, so that I could prolong their life until I got to the point where I had enough light that I could keep anything bad from happening to them. So I got my villagers up. I got trading with them. I started growing, plants. I didn't have a lot of emeralds at that point, so I couldn't instantly jump to the high level armor and weapons. What I could do is build a fish farm. Now, when I was out exploring and I found that sunken boat, which I believe I mentioned, I found a fishing rod in it, which is extremely lucky find. Using that, as well as a couple simple trades from my villagers, I found some iron. I found these in a temple when I explored further. And exploring is something that I love to do. It's going to be a hit or miss thing. When you go exploring, you open yourself up to two things. One, danger. Two, getting lost. Now, because I used F3, I knew exactly where this village was. Minus 258, 65, again, that's basically sea level, and 296. So I knew I could find my way back here. I got a pencil and paper next to my computer. I always like to jot down locations of important things by their coordinates, just so I can find them later. Technically, you don't even need a pencil and paper. You have the ability in this game to create a book and quill, which I can do with, I need leather, I need some paper, and I need, I believe, a feather. So first I'll create a book. And what do I need for a book? And oh, I need an ink sac. Do I have an ink sac anywhere? I don't believe I have an ink sac. So I have to go out and kill somebody to get an ink sac. Once I have an ink sac, I can create a book and quill. And what a book and quill allows me to do is to actually create a book in-game that I can open, write down information, and close, and have that information for whenever I need it. Now, as you can see, night is falling once again. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to take another quick nap, have another sip of water, and then I'll get back to explaining exactly what I did in what order. And it varies. Again, there is no wrong way to do this. You can see this particular villager doesn't want to use this bed. It's because he's already picked a different bed, and he wants to get to that bed. So if I were to unlock this door, in other words, remove that wooden piece, he would leave here in an instant and go find that bed, even though his workstation's here. This villager is quite content to stay in here. His workstation and bed are both here, his workstation being the blast furnace. And that's what you need to get an armor. So anyways, if you look at the map over here, you can see that after I made my village, after I secured it with fences and torches, I did some mining. This little tiny cave is all I dug out of here for a house. That's all I needed. I made some glass with sand I got from the beach. And if you go out here a little ways, now you can see one reason why I really like this village too is it's relatively flat aside from the two houses up there. There was a ravine here. You can see I've covered up most of it. In fact, I think I've covered up almost all of it now. But it actually went down a little ways, and I went down and mined a little bit there, and I encountered some zombies and some creepers, so I covered it up. But I got some iron out of it, and I got a handful of other resources. So after I had lit this up, I started my farm. I didn't have very many potatoes or carrots or wheat at that time, so there was a lot of dirt here and not much else at that point. I went exploring. So what I did is I created a map. Now, there was a cartographer here and a cartographer table right in there. So I used that. I made myself a map. Maps are made with a compass and paper, which is pretty easy to come by. The compass needs iron and redstone dust. Redstone dust you find when you mine. And I'm actually going to show you my mine in a second, but I went out. And so I went and I explored quite a bit. I went way up to the north where I found a jungle, which had a jungle temple and provided me with bamboo, an extremely useful resource, which I'll get into in a minute. I found a desert, which I got some sand in. I found that this down here, very big ocean, also had a ocean monument in it, so that was a really big plus. And then right here is another village, and there's actually a couple more villages over in this area. So the world was shaping up pretty nicely for me. I was quite happy with it, and I decided that, obviously by then quitting at this point wasn't going to happen, so I decided to keep it. Now I made a fish farm here, and all I did for the fish farm, I've got a dropper, I've got an iron door, a note block, which makes sound when I hit it. You can't hear it because I, of course, turned the sounds off so that I could avoid having to talk over the grunting of villagers. But you can see I use 2 tripwire hooks, a half slab here, and that's about it. And I can sit here, and I've got my fishing rod on me, and I can just fish. And then I can hold down the button, and I can just wait, and as soon as something is caught, it automatically does it. And fishing is a tremendously powerful tool. You get a lot of items from fishing, including enchanted books. I can pick up another fishing rod, which is actually a pretty good rod right off the bat. Other items like lily pads and that. One of the only ways you can get saddles and fish, which I can, of course, cook in a campfire or in a furnace or in a smoker. Now, the campfire is an extremely useful item. I should have grabbed a couple fish to demonstrate that. Pardon me if I seem disorganized. My mind is my mind. It does what it will do, as all of our minds are known to do. So, that being said, the campfires were already in the village. Again, another wonderful find in this village. And so you can throw fish, you can throw beef or chicken or whatever kind of meat you come across there. In a few minutes, it'll pop off fully cooked, which increases its edibility, meaning the amount of energy it provides you when you eat it. Now, as I mentioned before, you have 2 hands in this game, so you can use your offhand to hold food, which you can eat when you're hungry. You can also put a shield in it, and I'm going to use F to swap weapons. I can also put a block in that hand, which I can then place. You still have to break it with your right hand. There's my fishes ready. So I'm going to put the food back in my offhand. So you can put torches in your offhand as well. Holding a torch in your offhand will not produce light. It will, however, allow you to place said torch. Now, I'm going to run off, and while I was exploring, of course, I started exploring close to home first, and what I discovered was 2 things that were very, very useful. The first thing I discovered, I didn't make much use of. I found some more caves, and caving is a great way to get items, raw materials, that is, like iron. I found some berries, and if you look around the village, you'll see outside the fence post there, I actually made a whole bunch of berry bushes because mobs will take damage when walking through it. And while they generally avoid it, if they see you or a villager on the other side, they're going to walk into it. Now, down this ramp here, you can see I did a little digging. This is where I built my mine. I didn't do a lot of mining in this game. I just did the bare minimum to demonstrate it because I didn't need to. I needed just enough iron so that I could advance my villagers to a point where they would offer me the trades I wanted. And so you can see what I did is I dug a tunnel down here, and you can see I found diamonds, and I found coal, and of course I found iron, and I found some lapis. And the tools, obviously the diamond pick is the best for this, but you have to have the right pick for the right job. A wooden pick won't provide you with gold or with iron or with diamonds, of course, or emeralds or lapis. You need to use a minimum iron pick or above to get those particular items. Now you can see I left 2 solid lines between each one of these. And the reason I did that, although this one I only did 1 because I got a little bit turned around. Actually, I think I had the wall here and I didn't dig out. The reason I did is because if I find something on the wall here, and I find something on the wall here, I can see it. There's nothing in between them. The only thing I can't see is what's on the ground. So eventually, I'll clear out these whole sections. But for my initial quick digs, that was all I needed to do to find the coal and iron that I required. And as you see, I found some diamonds and redstone as well, which I could have made use of, but I left them here more for a learning perspective on things. So the next thing I did, of course, is I went exploring. When I was exploring, as I mentioned, I found the jungle with the bamboo. And I used the bamboo to make scaffolding. Now, one thing I would do also is I would end up eventually putting stairs in here to make it so much easier to get up and down on. It requires less energy, it's quicker. You can see I dug the tunnel tall enough that having a staircase there isn't going to cause me to bang my head. Some people build really short 2-block staircases and your character's literally head banging all the way down. So you can see I got this strange structure right here. And what it is after I make the scaffolding, I discovered that I had a ravine I could explore. And the beauty of scaffolding is that you can build downwards with it. So by extending out to here from there, when it got to the 7th block, it started dropping. And it dropped all the way down to here. And then I went and I dug out, and I looked and I mined out this way until I got to the end. And it once again started dropping down. Where is it? Gotta be careful. There we go. Whoop. So scaffolding, while useful, can still be dangerous. So anyway, so I dropped down and I did some mining in here. It's not a huge ravine by any means. It's a little dark up there, so I could put some more torches up there, but it had a lot of iron here. I think I got almost a full stack of iron out of this, or maybe half a stack. And the beauty of scaffolding is it's easy to go back up. Now, I could have simply, dug my way down the side wall and been pillared up with some, dirt or stone or cobblestone or sand even. But I find the scaffolding is just a much easier, much more useful tool. And I could, of course, remove that, take it back home and do the pillaring to get rid of it. But I may in the future want to dig out that ravine. There's another little tunnel here. You can see I've got some torches in. So going around, caving as they call it, is a quick way and a very easy way to acquire resources. So basically, once you have enough emeralds that you can start advancing your villagers, you've got a villager breeder to produce villagers. You select the type of villager you want by putting a crafting or a workstation, I should say, next to them. So for this particular character, you can see he has a smithing table. So I had to make the smithing table myself. Pop in here. And you can see, what does it require? I don't have the memorization of everything. I'm not the world's greatest player. I'm giving you my advice based on my personal experience, but that doesn't mean I'm 100% right 100% of the times. Bear that in mind. And again, this is a game that you can play any way you want. So there's going to be a lot of variety to it, a lot of ways that you're going to see me doing stuff and go, well, wait a minute, wouldn't it be better to do this? And you're probably right. Okay. This is my attempt to help getting brand new players and returning players a bit of a boost to see how to do things that they might not have seen before. So you can see I can make myself a smithing table. I could also make various other tables. So I could make the cartography table. I can make a smoker. These are all workstations that are necessary to get your villagers' jobs assigned to them. So a loom, that can be very useful for making things. Barrels can be used to store items. They're like mini chests. Oh, they are chests, but half chest. You can't create a double chest like you can with barrels. Barrels. I'm really talking around circles here. There's a composter, but the barrel, I should say, is used for fishermen. And where's the other one I wanted to show? Oh, there's a fletching table. Fletching tables are a fantastic thing to get a hold of an arch or a fletcher. Not an early game useful character, but late game. The fletcher, when fully expanded, so when you unlock all of his trades, can sell you one enchanted arrow. It's a random pick, so you might get a useless enchantment, like an arrow of jumping, which I guess if you shoot yourself with it, it could be useful, but otherwise you probably aren't going to want a ton of those to shoot at enemies. But there are useful negative enchantment arrows that you can acquire from him. that can be very useful. Of course, you can get golden carrots, and crafting them can be very expensive. What's the other item? Oh, I haven't even got it unlocked. That's why I haven't created smooth stone yet. One thing you need in this game is smooth stone, and I don't have any stone at all yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create that right now. So now this stone is not a cobblestone. That stone I just got is regular stone. When you mine with anything other than a silk touch pick, you're going to get regular cobblestone. Silk touch allows you to get stone. Now I could throw cobblestone into the furnace to get stone. You can then put stone into the cobblestone, and that will give you smooth stone. And having smooth stone will unlock more crafting recipes. So let me see that. You can see more recipes have been unlocked. And if I go over to this table now, I should be able to find the stone cutter, which is an extremely useful item. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Searching. I could just type stone cutter. So the stone cutter requires an iron ingot 3, and what the stone cutter will allow me to do is it can create different types of blocks from a single stone. So ordinarily, if I say wanted to create stairs with a stone, I would have to, put them in there. So I need to put in 6 stones to get 4 stairs. With a stone cutter workstation, I can go 1 for 1. 1 stone, 1 stair. So 6 stones, 6 stairs. So it makes it a very useful item to have. I'm going to sleep at night here, just so my village doesn't get attacked. So once you have your diamond pick, your diamond sword, your diamond axe, your diamond armor, what do you do next? Well, you can explore the world. You can build a huge base. You can go to the Nether, which you do by crafting some obsidian and using a flint to start it on fire to create a portal. You can track down the Stronghold, which is a deep underground naturally spawned fortress that you have to find, locate, and then unlock a portal there to take you to the end. And you can see over here my iron golems, and these are all naturally spawned iron golems. Killed a nasty that got into the village. I'm guessing I don't have quite enough light. I haven't checked to see all of my light area levels here because, like I said, I was kind of in a hurry to make this. So I didn't do as thorough a job as I should have. So if I press F7 or F3 and look, it's 7 right up here. And I have a feeling the top of them might even be lower. So that means mobs can spawn on the top of them, jump down. They can also, which I just realized, climb this to get in. So that's something I should have taken care of. So rather than the light level, it's more likely that they spawned outside the village and climbed their way in. Now you can see I can't get through bamboo. So bamboo is kind of a cheap and easy wall. You can see I do have a number of bushes here, but I guess I didn't have any there. So one thing I can do, instead of building on to that, or removing it, I'm going to wall it off, so to speak, with the berry bush. Now taking the berries away from these bushes isn't going to diminish their ability to injure my opponents, my villainous mobs and monsters. They're edible, so they're a very handy thing to have. So I can eat them and restore some of my food. I can plant them, and when planted, they suddenly become difficult terrain for the D&D players out there. It's slower movement through, and when they mature, you take damage moving through. So I basically can guarantee any zombie that wants to wander through that to get to me, probably going to die. Now, I used to have a golem out here, and while I'm out here, I can show you the ravine here. It used to be, as again, you can see, I think I got a torch down there. I went and explored and did some mining there. And yeah, I think the rest of the ravine's completely cut off now. The bell, as you can see, for the city is outside the village. That's just the way this particular village spawned, and that's not good. So we're going to take that away. We don't want to be that easy for mobs to walk inside the village. So yeah, so I mean, there's so many things you can do at this point. You can gather resources to build gigantic structures, wide variety of things you can do. But getting to this point is the goal, I think, of all new players. Once you have your diamond, swords and that, you can start working on enchantments. And of course, you may have noticed my villager in here. I used this particular workstation, which is called the, my brain just drew a blank. I forget what that's actually called. How sad is that? But anyways, you can use this workstation to create a librarian. And this particular librarian had mending for 38. Rather expensive, and I could lower that by trading with him, or before trading with him, if I remove this and allow his profession to drop, which will early in the morning to noon, I could then place it back down. It's called a lectern. There we go, the lectern. He'll once again pick it as his workstation, become a librarian, and then he'll have a new trade. So I could have potentially gotten that mending much lower. This gentleman has a workstation over here, which he uses. He's a cartographer, and the reason why I kept him a cartographer is because I can trade in paper for emeralds with him, and glass as well, which are two pretty easy trades. He also provides me with a blank map for a handful of emeralds, which is how I got the 2 maps that I have. Again, once you start with farmers, once you begin building up and unlocking things, there's quite a number of things that you can trade with them to decrease or to increase your supply of emeralds and decrease the cost of trading with them. Villagers do talk to one another still. They don't maintain that for a long period of time. So it used to be once you traded with villagers and they decreased that value, that cost, it would stay that way forever. It doesn't anymore. It fades now over time. So they will once again become less inclined to give you a deal. But again, emeralds are not hard to come by. It takes a little bit of time. You have to wait for crops to grow. But again, while you're waiting, you can plant trees. And I'll go over the types of trees that I find most useful are birch. Birch trees grow fairly quickly. They have a huge ratio of dropping saplings needed to replant them when you cut them down. And the wood, while it may not look the best for building, it is very useful for crafting everything. So you need sticks, you need wood planks, you need wood blocks to craft quite a number of items in this game. And so, your initial weapons, your doors, your trap doors, your tools, all of that stuff. Your chests, of course, you're going to make a lot of chests, barrels, the workstations, many of them require wood. So it's good to have a lot of trees on hand. As you can see, bamboo grows nice and tall. It grows fairly quickly, and it just takes a single hit with a sword to bring it all down. And then all I need is a piece of string, and I can create more scaffolding. The bow I actually acquired by fishing. I actually acquired multiple bows and used the anvil to combine them to double their enchantments or increase the level of their enchantments, so that I had punch 2, power 5, and the other enchantments on that. The trident with loyalty, mending, and breaking. This was a very lucky find. As I was exploring out here, I'm just going to quick little run. Running in this game, you can either double tap the direction you're facing or control in the direction you're facing, and you will automatically run. And while running, if you jump, it will actually increase the distance you jump. You can see there's yet another cave here that I went down and explored. But out here, not very far, Again, I don't have any enchantments on my boots to enable me to swim fast, but you can still swim at a pretty good pace here. If you wait till you go underwater, double tap or press the button, you can swim at a fairly good pace. But out here, you're going to see there's underwater ruins right here. And while I was out exploring, I was attacked by drowned, and the drowned that attacked me dropped the trident. So I was very lucky. And tridents are, well, not very efficient a weapon, are quite powerful. I also found there's that chest there. I believe I already raided. I'll double check that. Oops. Yeah, so I already raided that chest. Don't think there's anything around I can shoot at, but as you can see, maybe I can get that. Oh. You can throw the enchantment. Because I have loyalty, it comes back. Takes a few seconds. But again, it's a good early weapon to have, especially if you're doing anything in the water. Here, I'm going to go over and I'm going to kill me a squid. Okay, so I killed the squid. And I acquired, I picked up the dolphin buff, which lets you swim really fast, but I dropped that. Although now that I didn't get the ink sac. What happened to the ink sac? I think the dolphin took the ink sac. Oh, then I'll have to kill another one. There we go. There we go. Now, if you watch the right-hand side, since I just picked that up, it's going through various things that I can craft. It only listed one item there, but I'm fairly certain it unlocked the book and quill. Although now that I think about it, it might be that I needed the glass jar. It's been a while since I made a book and quill. I'm used to actually having a pen and paper next to me, or pencil and paper, and writing things down the old-fashioned way. But we shall see what we shall see. We are getting close to the end of my little adventure here, so I'm going to provide you with the seed to this map. And then you can, when you start your world, go to Create World, and then type in your own seed, which means you can type in the number. And I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to actually first pick up, on the off chance that it is. Didn't unlock anything, but I haven't emptied it. As I said, I'm not an expert at this. There's things that I'm still not 100% certain on it. Could be something as simple as a stick that I need to be holding to craft it. Book and quill, right there. So I did. I needed the ink sac. So now that I have the book and quill, I can put it in my hand. Oops. I was standing on the bed, so I accidentally went to sleep. Not a big deal. But now I can open that. I can type in numbers. I can type in, hello, this has been my tutorial. I can click done, and as long as I don't sign it, I can go back and delete and change it. So it's a useful tool to have, so you can bring this with you when you're exploring. Write down, pop F3 and write down the coordinates, stuff you find. Now, to find out the seed of the world, I'm pressing backslash. That brings up this, and I'm going to type seed, and it's going to put that number on screen. So that is the number. Make sure it stays on screen for a while, that you need to input into the Create World seed location in order to recreate my world identically. Now, obviously, the changes I've made will be undone. You won't start with any of the villagers that I have unlocked. You won't start with any items in your inventory. It will simply create this world as it was initially created for me. And if I go to Escape here, save and quit the title. Now if I go single player, create a world, in the world name I can put anything I want, and if I go more world options, I can put in the seed number there, so it will recreate my world. I can turn cheats on or off, and if I turn them on, that means game mode and experience will allow me to alter my play style. You will be able to change yourself into creative mode, which will allow you to literally have 100% of the blocks that are available in the game, an infinite supply of them to build anything you want. You can turn the bonus chest on. Now, bonus chest is simply when you spawn in the world, within a very near proximity to you, there will be a chest. And it will have a handful of useful items and nothing extravagant. Maybe a wooden pick or a wooden axe, maybe a piece of leather, maybe it'll have a sapling, some food for you to eat, but not much. But it can be a way of making that initial first day more survivable. Um, the generate structures, you want that on in order to get villages, dungeons. If you are going to be creating a world strictly to build, you don't want to do any survival, you can turn off the villages and dungeons. You can actually change the game mode from survival into creative. So you can start the game right away with absolutely, nothing to do except build. You have everything in your inventory. You are immortal, invulnerable. You cannot be targeted by mobs. You won't die from lava. You can go anywhere and do anything. Now, personally, I don't like creative mode very much. It has its uses, and I use it myself. In fact, you can see right here, I have a copy of Crom's domain. It's in creative mode. The difference between this world and this world is, while they are identical map, in this world, the structures that I build are simply a test so that I can see how much space I need for them, how big they are. I can count how many resources, and I'll give you a real quick tour of my world. This is the world that I've been playing in for a while. And this is the city that I have built. It's not a huge city by any means compared to what others have done, and it's still under construction. So I'm up the top here. As I wander around, you can see that's actually a farm. I'm growing seeds to create some pathways, but I cleared out a huge circle here. I'll use this. And that's my current home. This is the second home that I built, and this is actually based on a video game called Subnautica, where I created this intricate little base which goes underwater and there's a glass viewing area, and there's this area up here. My initial starting base, if I zip over this way a little ways, again, after spawning, I went looking for a village because I like villages, and I actually made this world prior to Village and Pillage. So it was in 1.13, and it had the old style villages and the old villagers. And as you can see over here, I've got an old style, no longer functional iron farm. It's basically for nostalgia sake that I left it, but you can see I've created a lot of farming areas here. And I got a floating house, which is kind of, it's something veterans frown upon. I should have taken the time to build some pillars to hold it up, and I was planning on building structure around it, similar to the structures I have here, but I decided to build it in the water here instead. And another project that I'm working on here, it should start to render hopefully. There it is. So you can see one, and hopefully the rest will slowly render in as I fall down. I want it to render before I pop up there. There you go. And I have to say huge thanks to a YouTuber referred to as Grian. He's in Hermitcraft, and he does a lot of YouTube videos on Minecraft, and he is the reason why I was able to make this beautiful Japanese style castle. And as you can see, it goes into water here, and this water here is deep. It's very deep. It's hugely deep, because you see originally this mountain, well, it was only a mountain on a couple sides. What I did is I built up this mountain. If I zoom out here, and again, flying is something, not a cheat. It's via this item here called an elytra that you acquire in an end city. So you can see here, I built up this mountain quite a large bit. And this is just an example of something you can do. And then I see I used ice on top to fill it with water, because when ice melts, and it melts when you apply a light source to it or when you break it, after it fills with water, of course, I use some kelp to turn those water blocks into source blocks. There you go. So I've got the castle there, and a little walkway there. This is still a work in progress. There's a lot of things I'd like to do to this to improve it, make it look a little better, a little more natural. I started some vines growing around, and I don't know, I'm going to create a waterfall down the side here, and I'm going to extend the river here out. But yeah, this is the world that I plan on, living in for a number of years perhaps, and expanding and building various structures and finding new cities to expand and explore. And I've been to the end. I've killed the Ender Dragon. Obviously, I raided an end city. This is a very large structure that I planned on working on. I've got myself a tiny little whoops, that was almost fatal. I've actually got a tiny outpost off in that direction, to the west, where I've set up a not necessarily a farm, but I've set up a place where I can deal with raids when they occur. Raids occur when you kill a pillager with a banner. You get a debuff on your character called Bad Omen. Once you have Bad Omen, the first village you enter will come under attack by pillagers. And you'll have to fend off wave after wave of pillagers in order to eliminate that. So what I have out here, and using rockets you can fly faster, is I've built this little thing here with a single villager in it, and this is where I fight my raids. So when I start a raid, I come out here, and I've got a little channel which I guide them into there. I have a kill switch down there, so I can kill them manually, or I can just pump lava into the area and kill them all. There are still some issues. It's not perfect. It's just a work in progress, as a lot of this is. And a lot of this is changing as updates come. The villagers are changing. So I've got a trading hall down there where I've got a whole bunch of villagers I've set up now. Mobs can't spawn on half slabs, which is kind of why things look funny when you get close to this. The whole area here is all half slabs. And you can see I want to make a whole bunch of roadways here. Even still, I took some precautions, so I've got the 3/4 cover here. I've had to use dirt to block off a lot of these guys. They are held in place by these very efficiently. However, some of them were pathfinding to workstations other than their own, so I had to go to some funny lengths to try and get them to reset. This particular villager here used to have extremely good favor with me, or I had good favor with him because he was a zombie villager. You can see I called him MVP PD, that I cured. Unfortunately, with the latest update, that no longer is a permanent boost or buff. But yeah, so here's my world. This is the end of my tutorial. Hopefully you'll get out of that enough that you can create your own world in your own vision, and have a lot of fun with Minecraft. There's so many things you can do in Minecraft, so many different ways to play, and it has near infinite potential. Even if you're not a very imaginative and creative person, there's so many people who are, that have posted what they've built online, that you can go online, find a tutorial for that giant, Japanese castle, and recreate it in your world in a slightly different manner. The one he did, he created on a little tiny hill. He didn't build his on a mountain with a lake. So, and that smaller structure I built myself based on what I learned from making the larger castle. So there's so many things you can do. I'd like you to have a lot of fun with this, and hopefully this will help you out. And I'll see you in the game. Goodbye.